from the catacombs under Horror Guy Studios. It's the Horror Guys! Yay!
Wow.
I'm Kevin,
I'm Brian.
and we're going to talk about some horror movies.
We're exposing ourselves this week.
We are.
We've got some things that are going differently.
Okay.
Normally, we do 4 movies and a short.
Mm-hmm.
This week, we're doing all 6 movies and a short.
Oh.
All of them.
We're going to talk about all of them?
The bonus movies that are normally hidden for the newsletter people
Oh.
are going to hit the podcast.
Neato.
And even more exposed than that,
Mm-hmm.
our monthly magazine, Horror Bulletin Monthly.
There have been some changes at Horror Guys Publications.
It's free.
hot. Diggity.
Well, for the next few days.
Uh-huh.
If you've been listening for a while, we've been talking about hour-long books where we've been put out a short book free every week. This week's free book is not one of those. It's the Horror Bulletin Monthly Magazine, episode 33.
With an awesome cover of Godzilla.
And we talked about a lot of kaiju movies last month, so Godzilla had to be on the cover.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just go to the show notes. There's a link there. If not, go to Amazon, find us there, or go to horrorguys.com and follow the links, and you'll find it. Horror Bulletin, issue 33. If you have Kindle Unlimited, it's free forever. If you don't have Kindle Unlimited,
You can get the ebook free for a few days.
5 days from today, till Tuesday, June 11th.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Check out our fine titles.
yeah. And just hypothetically,
Yeah.
if this is the last podcast you ever hear from us,
Uh-huh.
we may be changing podcast hosts before long, and I don't know what that entails. So it's entirely possible that the podcast players may break links or something like that.
Don't panic.
This
We're
is
still
not
there.
really our final episode.
We're still there.
But if you don't get any more after this, go to horrorbulletin.com or horrorguys.com, and there will be links there
Yes, there will.
to resubscribe
To find
if
it again.
necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we're mixing everything up. I took a week off from writing, and I caused all kinds of trouble.
And he's just gone tech wild.
Is it improvements? Well, we'll have
it's
to wait and
different.
see. It'll be different.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So this week, we didn't even say what movies we had this week.
We have the brand new movie Sting.
It's about that musician from the 80s, right?
No, it's about spiders again.
Bilbo's sword?
Spiders.
Oh, spiders.
Uh-huh. And The First Omen, a prequel, also brand new this year. And a brand new indie film, Insane Like Me. Yeah. And Titane. It is Titane, right?
I'm not sure. It's
we-
Titan with an E on the end.
Yep.
Titane or Titan or...
From-
It's French, so it's
A French-
It's a baguette.
Yeah. Titane from 2021. Yeah. And, what else we got? Oh, Cthulhu from 2008. And my favorite of the week, Jesus Shows You to the way to the highway
From 2019.
from 2019.
It's a 70s exploitation movie made 5 years
in
ago.
2019. We stumbled across this one by accident, and boy, it's a gem.
Titane had been on our list for a long time, and we're like, this may be the weirdest movie we've ever seen.
No,
It turned out it wasn't even the
and then
weirdest movie we saw this week.
And then we saw Jesus Shows You to the way. Jesus Shows You the way to the highway.
Yes, he does.
Yes, we saw that one, and yeah, boy, that's weird.
Well, we'll cover that one last. First up, we've got Sting from 2024.
Uh-huh.
Written and directed by Kia Roach-Turner. Stars Jermaine Fowler, Ryan Corr, and Ayla Brown. Hour and 32 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. And we're not going to spoil this one to death because it is brand new. So we'll just give you a little taste. We'll give you a stinger, that is.
Yeah.
Well, what's worse than spiders? How about Spiders from Space? Which really wasn't played up very much other than the size of the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In addition to the creep factor, this has a lot of dark humor and offbeat characters. The story's a little basic. You know exactly what's going to happen, probably already just by what I said. But they dress it up nicely into an entertaining film.
Yeah, overall, I liked it.
Yeah. Well, don't spoil it to death, but give us the first few minutes. What happens?
Well, we hear in the news that an asteroid passed close to Earth yesterday, and today it's unusually cold outside. It's a very rare ice storm.
If it's that cold, you can't go outside,
That's
so we're
right.
all isolated.
We're all trapped inside. We watch an old woman knitting. until she hears something running around upstairs and thumping in the walls. So she pulls out an antique phone book to call an exterminator.
We're like, what is that thing she's looking at?
Yeah, and we see from the notes on the wall that it looks like she has Alzheimer's.
Yes, she forgets things.
And like there's a note on the wall that says, "Your name is Helga," things like that. Well, Frank the exterminator comes by, but the Bug brothers are parked right outside already. Frank warns the confused Helga about the green snot coming out of her vents. He hears the noise right away and goes in to check it out. He finds a blood trail in the back bedroom and a Bug Brothers hard hat before he starts screaming. Something drags him back into the room and closes the door. And old Helga forgets about this immediately, and then she hears thumping in the walls and the ceiling again, goes up to call an exterminator. And then we go to 4 days earlier, the screen tells us. And we see a meteor crash down into Helga's apartment building.
It's little. It's like, up like a pinball size.
Yeah, it's not huge. And a good-sized spider hatches out of it, and credits roll. Well, a kid breaks in through the ventilation shaft and finds the spider. She puts the spider in a matchbox, and Gunter, a mean-looking old woman, comes in. As the little girl crawls through the ducts, we see the other people who live in the building. And we see that the girl is Charlotte, and she's Ethan.
Is this going to be about Charlotte's Web?
Charlotte's Web, yeah, I think that's a reference, yeah. She is Ethan, the apartment manager's stepdaughter, and Gunter is her grandmother who owns the building. Her mother is Heather.
This all becomes very obvious very quickly.
Yep, all the characters introduced. Well, Charlotte names her spider Sting and feeds it other bugs. Charlotte's other grandmother is the addled Helga, who watches horror movies and knits all day. Charlotte wrote a comic book, and Ethan drew it, and it's become quite popular, and they're working on the next issue. Well, sometime during the night, the spider gets out of its jar and gets into the vents. And not long after, something eats Gunter's parrot. And hilarity ensues from there.
Yep, that's a good place to stop.
Yeah, no more spoilery than that. It was pretty well made overall. I liked it.
Yeah, we both liked it. You got to compare this to Infested that we talked about last week. The French-made movie that had like thousands and thousands of CGI spiders.
This just has one.
Just one big spider. Yeah.
There's some practical effects, but a lot of CGI in this one too.
Oh, yeah. Well, the many segues between the apartments and the characters are very smoothly done. You get to see like 5 or 6 different apartments and who lives there and what happens to each of them. We quickly get to know all the characters and the relationships, which is nice. And the family drama is actually interesting here, but there's not so much of it that it detracts from the horror story. This is not a drama. It's a spider killer movie. Unlike Infested, there's only one spider in this one, but it is a big one.
It is. It's not a normal spider.
And there's one scene where she keeps the spider in a jar, and I was looking down typing in
and
something.
He missed it. Yeah.
And the spider unscrews the lid from the inside and gets out. And for a long time, I thought there was going to be 2 spiders, a good spider and a bad spider.
He's sneaking out of the jar and making mayhem, and then sneaking back into the jar and putting the lid back on. Yep. So for a while, he's getting away with it.
Yeah, it's not really 2 spiders.
Yeah.
All right. Well, which takes us to our next movie, The First Omen from 2024. It's a prequel to 1976.
I think 1970s.
Yeah, I think the second one was in 76.
Okay, the original Omen.
The early 70s. First Omen, this one came out in 2024, of course, directed by Arkeisha Stevenson, written by Tim Smith and Arkeisha Stevenson and Keith Thomas. Stars Nell Tiger Free, Ralph Ineson, Sonia Braga, and Bill Nighy. Hour and 59 minutes, so it's a bit long on the long side. And, of course, this is the sequel to Omen 1, 2, and 3 from the 70s and early 80s. The fourth one was kind of a reboot, which was kind of awful.
Yeah, the fourth one we shall not speak of.
Was there a fifth one? No, there's a remake or something, wasn't there?
There's a remake of the first one, yeah.
Yeah.
Which was okay.
They're all on the site if you want to dig for them at
The remake of the first one is okay. I don't think it was as good as the first one.
It was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoiler free, I'm going to say this one didn't work for the horror guys.
No, it did not.
Yeah. Too many things were like the first Omen movie, and that kind of came across as lazy. They tried changing and adding things to the mythos as if it was a requel, not just a prequel, like they were trying to actually change stuff. And it was a little bit dull. We would recommend just sticking with the trilogy of the original Omen movies.
Yeah, the whole story takes place in the 70s.
And I can't...
So they're not dated at all. They're just a period story in the 70s. You don't need to update it. You don't need to read the prequel
And I don't think I can mention a main point that bugged me without being a spoilery thing.
The jackal bit?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
If you've seen the original movie...
He was born of a jackal, not a woman. He says this himself. He's proud of it. And at one point, they even find the jackal mother's skeleton.
They dig up the grave and see the jackal.
To prove that he is the Antichrist. And here we have a woman giving birth to Damien.
No jackals were used
There's
in
no
the making
jackals
of
in this movie. And that just irks me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a very transparent reason why they did it. They want to make sequels using some of these characters.
They want to requel it, and make the the horrific situation of this young woman, which is pretty horrific what she goes through. But no,
they could have changed a couple of details and it would have been fine. But by doing that, they've made it obvious that they're trying to trash the originals. Plus some other stuff that we'll get to. Maybe we're not going to spoil this one either.
We shouldn't spoil that, but we'll tell you a little bit.
Some workmen raise a stained glass window with a winch as the priest walks by. So there's this big cathedral church thing, and these guys are working up high with all this equipment as the priest walks underneath it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
The priest.
We see what's coming here.
The priest then goes to listen to a confession where Father Harris, another priest, talks to Father Brennan, who we didn't recognize till much later. He's the priest from the original Omen movie, just with a different actor.
Yeah.
About this baby that he knows of that was not conceived normally. Well, we flash over to a woman strapped to a table, and the man says that the baby should be a teenager by now. Harris gets up and leaves. I just want it to all be over. Just at that moment, the stained glass window over them shatters, and Father Harris is impaled with a pole.
Impaled.
Now, if you've seen the original Omen, the exact same thing happens, only better.
Well,
a priest gets impaled by a pole.
And he wasn't exactly impaled. It kind of split his head open. But
it's the same thing. Yes.
And
this is my biggest problem with the movie. Is does the devil only know for a way to kill people?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Because probably one of the more iconic scenes from the original is when the Damien's nurse, babysitter, nanny person jumps out the upstairs window with a noose around her neck.
And she even says, "Hey, Damien, this is for you. This is all for you."
The exact same thing happens
here. And she says that.
Yes.
She says, this is for you.
Yeah.
What? How unoriginal. But we're seeing, maybe somebody seeing these fresh,
Well, I'm sure this is probably very entertaining if you haven't seen the originals. But then you see the original and think they were derivative.
Yeah, we're seeing it through the eyes of, seeing the originals when they came out and again since.
Well, maybe not when they came out.
Oh, I saw them when they came out.
I saw the second one when it came out. You're right. I didn't see the first one.
Yeah,
Too little.
I saw them all. Oh, my parents had no problem with that.
Credits roll as we shift to 1971 Rome. So we know this is a prequel, a couple of years before the original. Cardinal Lawrence is at the station to pick up Margaret, an American, a new nun about to take her vows. The convent is also an orphanage, and they care for lots of girls. She meets Sister Angelica, who is weird. She also meets Carlita Sienna, one of the older children, and she gets licked in the face because this girl's very weird.
Yes, she is.
That night, Margaret is alone in her room and gets a jump scare. Oh, I don't think the Omen had any jump scares.
Kind of did.
Another soon-to-be nun, Luz, comes in from the nightclubs. She's been out having some fun before taking her vows. And they talk about why they've decided to become nuns. Well, we get a settling in montage as Margaret meets everyone and starts doing nun things. Yeah, it seems like a fun, happy place, except for Carlita, who is always sullen and creepy. That night, she sees some nuns tying Carlita to the bed as a punishment.
Because she's bad.
Well, Luz wants Margaret to go to a disco or a bar, and Margaret admits she's never been to one, ever. They immediately meet Alfonso and Paolo. She has a few drinks and a few dances and wakes up in her bed at the monastery. Luz said that Margaret had a very good time.
But she doesn't remember it.
Later in the morning, Margaret prays as Father Brennan from the opening scene watches from afar. He warns her about Carlita, because evil things happen around her. He wants to talk again tonight. Margaret goes back to the convent to watch a woman give birth forcibly, and a long claw comes out of the mother, and Margaret faints at the sight.
And there's question whether that was real or not. She hallucinated it, or whether...
Or did she?
Or did
yes.
she, yeah.
That's a good place to stop, because you know where this is going.
Stuff happens.
Well, the very first scene, with the priest impaled by a pole, was ripped right from the first movie, which seemed really lazy.
I thought so.
Then the crazy nun jumps from the roof with a noose around her neck. Really? This is supposed to be a prequel, not a requel. Does the devil only know 4 ways to kill people, and he just does them over and over and over?
Maybe.
It's an okay story, but the very limited deaths were all ripped right from the original The Omen film, except there was that bit there about one of the characters gets pregnant, we're not going to say who, and has a baby Damien.
Mm-hmm.
But the original Omen movie very clearly made it clear that the father was a devil and the mother was a jackal, not a human.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to redo the original, which, eh.
Yeah, they shouldn't have done for this.
All right. Well, bottom line is, it's not only dull. It wants to add new stuff, like Damien has an unknown sister that we didn't know about before too.
What?
Could you say the first
A
Omen
twin
part
sister?
2?
A twin sister, who was not mentioned in the first
Ever.
3 movies ever. Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good at all.
Yeah.
I would say this is the worst movie of the week, but
It was my least favorite. Well, that's the problem, because it was well made. Everybody,
there's
was good in it. The effects are good. It's it's got some creepiness and certainly unsettling what happens to the young woman, and but they shouldn't have.
no need for that movie.
So I would say it's my least favorite. Yeah.
Insane Like Me from 2024, directed by Chip Joslin, written by Britt Bankhead and Chip Joslin, stars Britt Bankhead, Eric Roberts. Ooh, Eric Roberts.
He's always fun.
Is he, though?
Yeah, he is. He's always,
okay.
He's always a hoot.
And Grace Patterson, hour and 26 minutes, trailer in the show notes. And this is one of those brand new movies. It's got vampires. Oh, what's it got? Spoiler-free it.
Spoiler-free? It's got vampires, action, spiritualism, romance, and angst. So there is a lot to like about it. Britt Bankhead, this is his first lead role in a full movie. And Eric Roberts is always a hoot to see. It's pretty good for an indie work, and we give it an overall thumbs up.
Yes, we would.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not got the production values of some of these other movies, but it's entertaining.
But everything is decent, and yeah, I was not bored. I was entertained. These are my primary criterias. Entertain me, don't bore me, don't make me regret watching it.
Well, it's Halloween. Again, it's brand new. I know you haven't seen it, so we're not going to go far into this.
Yeah.
It's Halloween, and 2 couples get together to go into the Masker Hotel, which is supposed to be haunted by as many as 200 ghosts. No, it's really a surprise welcome home party for Jake. Apparently, it's a haunted hotel that rents out.
Cool.
It's a party for Jake, who has just come home from overseas. I don't think they really say Army or Navy or whatever, but some kind of military thing. Samantha thinks that she's pregnant with Jake's baby. Well, the guy from the TV show You Hear It First arrives with his cameraman, and he didn't know there was going to be a party. He's just here to film B-roll for his ghost TV show.
But he's on board once he finds out it's a party.
Yeah, party.
Yeah, all right.
The girls tell him that something's been going on in this town for a while, but people keep on disappearing. Then the 2 girls reveal that they're vampires and bite them both. And this is like 3 minutes in, so we're not talking major spoilers.
No.
There's vampires on the cover.
Yeah.
Will, Jake, and Samantha soon find out they're in the hotel with a bunch of vampires, and there's lots of fighting. Jake then goes to the sheriff, who blames Jake for killing his daughter Samantha, who got lost somewhere along the way. Then the sheriff has Jake committed. 9 years later, Jake's still in the asylum, and he gets visions of Samantha wanting help. He tells the doctor that he's normal again, and he's due to be released soon anyway.
It's one of those... Yeah, I realize I was crazy, and I'm terribly sorry, and I'm much better now. And
as we see that he sees her right behind him.
Yeah, he's literally... Samantha's in the room with them. And the doctor, of course, doesn't see her. Yeah.
So Jake gets released from the asylum, and soon we see him carrying a body out to the desert to bury and patching a hole in his leg. Samantha is there, and she still wants his help. What was that all about? Gonna have to watch it and find out.
Yeah, you will.
All right, well, it's got some noticeably weird editing in spots. Like some scenes start and end abruptly and possibly out of order. Maybe I mean that scene with the body. I mean, we get an explanation for that later.
But the
But it seemed
flashback,
very disjointed.
yeah, because he was scruffy and bearded, and it seemed like he should have been scruffy and bearded in that flashback. I was thinking, but whatever. Yeah.
Well, anyway, so someone can be committed to an asylum for 9 years just on the word of one sheriff.
He's a very forceful sheriff.
It must be the Deep South. Well, it's low budget, but the pacing is decent. The sets and settings are good, as is the camera work and lighting. The music is kind of bland, but it's not annoying. Eric Roberts is always fun to see, even though he's kind of just here for the paycheck on this one, I think. He's not trying his best.
Well, it's not a huge role.
And he's doing the southern accent. He's doing the southern hillbilly sheriff accent. And he's not real good with that accent.
He's all right.
But it's Eric Roberts, so yeah.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Short film time. What'd we see?
We saw one called Mr. Suit, which I do not have up in front of me.
Mr. Suits with an S.
Mr. Suits.
2024.
I'll let you
Written
read it.
and directed by Drew Benton. Stars Andrew Golecki. Oh, there's a good name for
That's
you.
awesome.
Simeon Fuller and Alex Irwin. 4 minutes and 7 seconds, so it's a real short one. There's a link here to watch it on YouTube for free, which is the best way to do it.
Yeah, it is.
Well, a man gets a call in the garage. He yells at his employee on the phone and demands that the man who did something last night be fired. Suddenly, he sees someone strange down in the parking garage, and the stranger's carrying a hammer. We know it's not going to end well. Well, it's short, simple, and tells us what we need to know. It's well shot, and the suspense works well. Is the hammerman going to use that hammer, or isn't he?
Is it going to be hammer time?
There's not really any explanation to why it happens, but what we get does look really good.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thumbs up.
It's hard not to like a 4-minute short.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a whole lot invested in that.
You should check it out if you can.
Alrighty, that takes us to Titane.
Mm-hmm.
2021. Directed by Julia Ducournau. Written by Julia Ducournau, Jacques Acciodi, and Simonetta Greggio. Stars Vincent Linden, Agatha Roussel, and Garance Marillier. Hour and 48 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. I remember hearing a whole bunch about this when it came out, and we never did get around to watching it until this week.
And we are glad we did.
This is either Tubi or Hulu, so it's streaming.
Mm-hmm. It's out there to watch.
Spoiler free, what happens?
This was one very strange movie.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah. It was entertaining, though, and while we didn't always understand why the characters were doing what they were doing, we could follow the plot, and it was clear what they were doing. It's a weird plot. Everything about it was good, and we would recommend it if you're in the mood for something odd. It's still a horror movie for sure. I mean, I would consider it that.
Whether I like a movie or not, if I'm still thinking about it 3 days later, it's got to be a good movie.
That's a good sign. And there are some things in there that make you ponder. What the hell?
Okay, maybe if you don't want spoilers, we'll just say watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is old enough. Should I do the whole thing?
I don't think you should spoil this one so much.
Okay. Well, I'll stop partway through
Because I
again.
think it's under the radar enough where a lot of people probably haven't seen it, especially foreign film. And
This is subtitled French, wasn't it?
It was
subtitled,
yeah, subtitled French. So
Well,
give them a good taste.
We get close-ups of dirty-looking machines dripping oil as the credits roll. We soon see that it's really just an artsy look at the engine of a car being driven by a father with an annoying daughter in the back seat. She takes off her seatbelt, and the father makes a grab for her, and the car crashes. You've seen that 100 times. We then cut to a hospital where they put a titanium plate in the girl's skull. Titanium?
Titane. Uh-huh.
She's released, and in the parking lot, she walks out to the family car and gives it a kiss and a big hug. She really likes that car.
Really, really.
Well, years pass, and Alexia is an adult now. She's still got a scar over her ear, but it fits right in with her punk look. She's at what I would call the most pornographic car show ever. It even has bouncers.
Yeah, I mean, that's something. I mean, it's not unusual to have showgirls, presenter girls at a car show. that are all glammed up and, showing off the cars. These girls are literally dancing on the cars. They're very scantily dressed and gyrating, and yeah, it's not your typical car show.
Car shows would probably be more popular.
Yeah.
Well, we linger on one dancer, Alexia, of course, who really likes cars. She licks it all over and rolls on it for 5 minutes. It's a very strange scene. Afterward, in the shower, Alexia gets her hair caught in another dancer's nipple ring, which is really awkward.
An awkward shower scene.
And later I figured that the pain of that is what triggers everything that comes later.
Well, it wasn't her nipple ring.
It wasn't?
No, it was her hair. She was the one that got it caught in the other girl's nipple ring.
Okay.
Yeah.
This scene really doesn't mean much then.
No, it's just an excuse to see boobies.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, she's even got fans who want autographs. Or it turns out maybe this guy's more of a stalker. She stabs the man in the ear with a knitting needle, and he dies painfully. She puts his body in the back seat of her car and goes home, where we see she really does have some kind of automobile fetish. She masturbates with the car. It's a very strange scene.
It's a very strange movie.
I could probably say it's a very strange scene about 12 more times, 30 more times in this.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, in the morning, there's a news report about Adrian, a little boy who went missing 10 years ago. They're finally closing the case for no leads. There's also mention of a number of bodies that have been found. 4 so far this year. It could be a serial killer. Alexia still lives at home, and her father is a doctor.
Oh,
the lady in the tube.
The lady in the tube. Heard that.
Don't say it again. We cut to that
A-word
girl licking and biting another woman, but she gets carried away, and the other woman gets angry. She throws up and takes a pregnancy test, because whenever a woman throws up in a movie, she's pregnant.
She's pregnant, but she does take it. She tests positive.
Yes. She then tries to give herself an abortion using the knitting needle, which looks really painful.
Oh, that's a visceral scene.
But she's not bleeding. It's all black out there. She starts leaking black stuff, like motor oil or something. Then she stabs her girlfriend to death with the same knitting needle. When the woman's roommate comes downstairs, she kills him with a fireplace poker and a stool. That looks kind of painful, too. Then the roommate's girlfriend comes in and sees it, and she learns that there's a whole lot of people in this house. And best line in the movie, how many of you are there?
How many are there? She's getting exhausted. And it's like, there's another person. She keeps having to clean up the loose ends.
All right, well, this is all like 15, 20 minutes in, and I'm not even going to get to the good stuff because you need to see this.
You do, yeah. Basically, she goes into hiding.
Yes.
Yeah.
In a very strange
way. And
she meets a man just as strange as she is in a different way.
Yeah, gets a strange kind of job and, has strange adventures.
Well, the moral of the story seems to be don't have sex with cars, but I maybe could have misinterpreted the meaning. It's a very weird movie. It wasn't always clear what was going on, but it was always interesting. The weirdness just sort of piles on top of itself, and it works really weird. Works really well.
We're using the word
weird too
much.
Oddly enough, I kept being reminded of Tetsuo Iron Man from 1989. Remember that one?
Yeah, a little bit.
The guy turns into a machine.
Yeah.
And it's very mechanical.
Yeah.
It's got a similar vibe, although this one's a lot more realistic. She does not turn into a car, but it's just got that weirdness factor. It looks good. It's well filmed. Most of the time, the plot made sense. It's very disturbing, yet it's also very involving. I'm going to call this in the best of the week.
I'm going to go with that too. Yeah.
I mean, I know you like the Jesus Shows You the Way, but
best movie, yeah.
This is better.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing really to think about with the other one. This one, you're like, what really happened? This kind of reminded me of like a David Lynch movie. What the heck are we looking at?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of that element to it.
All right, and what the hell is this? Not in a good way, was 2008's Cthulhu.
Now, see, this is one that I harshed on originally, and we harshed on, and the more that I think about it, the more I like it.
All right.
After the fact. It is one that has kind of stuck with me. And I think I'm less harsh on it now.
What's the name of the movie?
Again. Cthulhu.
And who doesn't show up in this movie?
Cthulhu.
There's no giant. There's no giant
But he
monster.
is coming. He is coming.
Is he though?
Yes.
Or is it just those ocean people?
No, he was coming. It's the end of days coming. Yeah.
If you want to see this movie done right, go check out Dagon. It's
Okay.
the same story.
Well, it's based on the same story. The in it. What is it? What's
Shadow
it?
over Innsmouth.
Shadow over Innsmouth. They're both based on that short story. That
Yeah.
By
H.P. Lovecraft.
yeah.
Well, directed by Don Gildark, written by Grant Cogswell, Dan Gildark, and H.P. Lovecraft. Stars Jason Cottle, Casey Curran, Ethan Atkinson. 1 hour, 40 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. This was maybe Tubi? I don't know. It's also streaming somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Well, lots of things happen without much happening. The characters seem to almost get interesting and understandable, but they all fizzled out on the way there.
Oh, I don't know.
There's some strangeness, but not enough of it. Seems like it should have been better than it was. Yeah, a lot of missed opportunities here, I thought.
Yeah, it's vaguely in the future, somewhat in the future. It's vaguely apocalyptic or on the edges.
It's an end-of-the-world story, but doesn't really... I don't notice anything like science fiction future-y.
No. H.P. Lovecraft.
Next week, this is going to happen.
No, yeah. Well, we hear about the former U.S. border, mass evacuations in Asia, and other disasters
Oh, yeah,
as
okay.
credits roll. Yeah, we hear some news stories of bad things happen in the world. It's in the near future with things going downhill globally.
Now, this all sounds very apocalyptic, end-of-the-world stuff right there, but once this guy gets to the town, none of that is relevant. Nothing from the outside is affecting this town at all. It's just background noise.
Well, but see, I thought that was interesting, though, because that's how it is with a lot of big disasters and big things. And,
Yeah.
You know, something awful happened on the other side of the world, and you look around yourself, and your life in your town is pretty much the same. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, I could respect that, the way they did that. Well, Russell gets a call that his mother has died. His boyfriend says that sucks and begs him for $20. Yeah, he's real sympathetic. He listens to a radio report about the last polar bear in the wild dying. He stops on a road to help with a traffic accident and gets blood all over his shirt. When he gets to the funeral parlor, the funeral has already finished. His sister Danny is glad to see him, but his father, the Reverend, wants him to stay a while. Barnes, the lawyer, needs to talk to Russell about the estate. Well, Russell goes to a warehouse at the docks and finds hundreds of names scratched into the walls. And not only that, a bunch of cultists are marching in. Well, he sneaks down to the dock and rows away as darkness falls. Russell goes to meet Danny and Mike at the bar. He and Mike go way back, childhood friends. And as they talk, we get a flashback to Mike finding Russell in a suicide attempt as teenagers. And that night, Russell dreams that the kid in the car accident gave him a magic rock, and he has it when he wakes up. That was a neat trick. Yeah, it's got rune things written on it. Well, Aunt Rosie in the nursing home tells Russell that his mother left him something in the furnace at home. And then she starts speaking in a strange tongue.
Dementia.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He has dinner with the family later, and that's all very awkward, especially when his father asks, "How's the gay life, Russell?" He's not too supportive of the lifestyle. Russell says his father's belief in the old ones was just a silly cult. Danny says that none of them really understand him. So, yeah. He's not a reverend of Christianity, necessarily.
No, but he's something.
Yeah. Well, we flash back to Russell and Mike as teenagers, talking about girls and masturbating together. Some guy at the bar, Zaduk, looks at Russell's magic rock and says it's for Dagon, who used to be used for, the rock used to be used for human sacrifice. Zadok tells the story about fishing and catching a thing that looked like a giant baby. Russell gets introduced to Susan from school, but he doesn't really remember her. She's married and flirts heavily with Russell.
Wrong team.
Yeah. Well, Russell plans to meet up with Zadok for more answers, but he gets a note to stay away from him. It's a clerk at a store warns him away. But he does meet him up, And the old man tells about a lost city that used to be out in the bay on an island. And the people there did rituals, doing inhuman things and human sacrifices. They came out of the sea and killed lots of people. You know what a shoggoth is? Everyone goes back to the sea with them. Kind of enigmatic about what he says. Well, he asks Julia about the cultist that he saw. She tells him about her little brother, and the cult took him 5 years ago. Well, he goes to Susan's house to see a book, research stuff, and she says she wants him to give her a baby, and her husband wants that too.
What?
Yeah, he's in a wheelchair. Well, they even offer him a bunch of money to do it, and that doesn't work, so they drug him, and she has a go without his willing help.
She will have his baby.
Yeah. Well, Russell starts doing research on all the missing people in town as well as the Dagon cult, which his father is heavily involved with. He tells Mike that it's his father's cult that has been killing people. And he goes back to the warehouse at the dock. All the names are gone now. He does find a blue sphere that glows and gives him a vision when he touches it. Russell comes across Julia's little brother. He's a blind boy who says he's waiting for Cthulhu. He ends up running around some dark tunnels and sees some weird-looking creatures down there. He goes to Mike's house, rambles about what he saw. They argue about peanut butter and jelly until they stop and have sex. It's kind of an odd scene, yeah. But Mike says he's not really gay. It's just an extension of their friendship. Yeah. Well, in the morning, they leave Mike's place and find the blind boy dead, nailed to a guardrail. It's the day of the auction of his mother's estate, and Russell's the executor. The sheriff comes to the auction and arrests Russell for murder and the rape of a minor. Turns out the sheriff doesn't like Russell's family, and the sheriff punches Russell. He dreams he's at the bottom of a lighthouse, and he sees a cage full of people on the beach. When he wakes up, the jail is surrounded by protesters carrying torches. The cell door opens, and Russell takes the opportunity to get out of there. He finds Susan and demands answers. She's not cooperative. She and her husband drug Russell again and leave. Later, he goes to his mother's house to see what she hid in the furnace. It's a videotape of his mother, who explains everything.
Quite convenient.
Yeah. She wanted him away from his grandfather, who wasn't dead, and he went back out to sea. And then his father comes on, talks about eternal life through Cthulhu. He says Russell will lead them into the sea. He is their prophet. Russell just doesn't know that. Well, Russell runs outside, beats an old man to death in self-defense. Phones all over the town start ringing. A national alert says to stay in your homes. Helicopters fly over, and we can see smoke from across the river. The violence from outside of town is coming their way. Russell tells Mike about the plan for them all to go into the sea, and they get shot at on the road. People are going crazy everywhere. Russell goes to his father's house, and his father shoots the sheriff and the deputy. Danny and everyone else is there, and they start chanting. Would you like to see your children? They ask Russell, and lead him to a bathtub full of his inhuman spawn. We don't see them, but they're kind of slithery. We get a glimpse of them. The old world is dying, and we're giving birth to the new, the father says. People are coming up out of the ocean as others go in, and Russell's father demands that he make a sacrifice. Mike will be perfect, he says, and he stands there holding him in place. And Russell roars and swings back to make a fatal blow. Does he take out Mike or the father? Blackout to credits, and we are left to wonder.
Uh-oh.
So it's weird and dark and atmospheric, and I liked Russell and liked Mike, and I look back on it fondly.
There's no Cthulhu.
But there's not enough Cthulhu.
Well, neither Cthulhu nor any of his friends actually make an appearance here. We see some pale-looking people in the sewers, but only briefly. The rest is all about people going into the sea and coming back. So, water zombies. The acting is mediocre at best, especially the lead actor. He's just not that good. But Kevin disagrees and thought he was pretty good.
Yes, he does.
We get a lot of exposition about natural disasters, maybe sort of climate change related. We don't know in the beginning. But we see nothing out of the ordinary in Russell's hometown. Maybe that's the point. The villagers have been doing things to ensure that nothing like that happens in their town.
They want things to go their way.
Yeah. The villagers clearly want Russell to have a child, so they put Susan up to raping him. The fact that he's gay just makes it more of a challenge for them. Lots of stuff happens, but it's really hard to follow exactly what's happening or why. I guess at the end, Russell does what he's told and brings about the new world, but there's really no reason given why he would change his mind.
Well, I think it's going to happen whether he does or not.
What do they need him for then?
A sacrifice. It's a symbolic thing, I think.
All right.
But I think even if he killed his father, all the stuff would have still happened. It was rolling along at that point.
I thought it was dull and there was a terrible lack of monsters.
Okay. I kind of liked it.
Our final movie for the week, Jesus Shows You the Way to the Highway from 2019. Written and directed by Miguel Lanzo. Stars Daniel Tedeschi, Augustin Mateo, and Guillermo Lanzo. And the hellcat below me keeps meowing. She wants to be heard.
She is restless today.
Guest starring
Sparkler.
the cat. Runtime, hour and 23 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. And again, this one's Tubi, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Streaming somewhere.
Yeah.
If in doubt, say Tubi, because they've got everything.
Same channel as Titane, because we saw it in the You May Also Like.
Right, yes, yeah. We weren't even looking for this. This was sort of an accidental find.
And it caught our eye.
If you like Titane, you'll like this. And oh my.
Well, spoiler-free, this is a heaping helping of surreal weirdness again. We're using that W word. We need a thesaurus. It never lets up. There is a story among strange effects, odd characters, retro futuristic technology and effects, stop motion animation, and masks.
Yes.
It's likely that you'll love it or hate it, and we were on the love it side, or at least like it a lot.
Oh, it's an awful, awful, awful movie.
But it's so
but
good.
It's hard to look away from.
Yeah.
Okay, again, this is an accidental find. I wouldn't even call it horror. It's not horror at all. We're just calling this because sometimes horror and weird overlap.
And science fiction.
Mm-hmm. It's a bonus film, so live with it or turn us off at this point. Whichever. It's all good. But I think if you like Titane and some of the other weird horror movies, you like this one too.
I bet you would.
Well, the credits look like a 1980s home computer loading screen. It is, in fact, a virtual reality video game, and the researchers find their man in the VR helmet has had his eyes ripped out. But Agent Tracy isn't quite dead yet. All right, and this is very grainy and cheap looking. It looks like it was made in the 70s.
On purpose.
This movie's 5 years old, so, they had film.
Mm-hmm.
Elsewhere, Agent D.T. Gagano, a little hunchback dwarf agent, reads a book. And he is a funny-looking guy.
He's got an odd physique.
He's oddly shaped. He gets a quick brief about how the Soviet agents have infected the Psycho Book with a virus. They put Gagano and his partner Palmer into the Psycho Book game. Let me just say right now, if this sounds even remotely interesting, watch the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
You'll know what this movie's about.
Yeah.
And we looked at that trailer and said,
we have to see
let's watch these other movies later. Let's watch this one now.
We need to see this
We were
movie.
Intrigued.
Yeah, we were.
Inside, people have strange, paper-like masks over their faces and walk in stop-motion movements. The two agents are inside an enemy agent's house, and they have a strange fight. Eventually, they defeat that enemy agent. And this is really weird looking.
Mm-hmm.
Paper masks and stop-motion, and wow.
It was cool.
It was cool in a terrible kind of way. Cheap and low budget looking.
And it's a way that they were able to get away cheap, and it distinguishes the VR from the real world.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Gagano watches his wife, Malin, boxing at the gym. He goes into the shower with her to make love, but he hurts his back. That's because she's like 7 feet tall, and he's 2 feet tall.
Yeah, there's quite a size difference.
He tells her that he wants to quit the CIA, and then he watches a very strange TV show called Batfro. It's a black man in a Batman suit. Batfro.
And the Bat logo is blurred out.
This is I'm assuming the producers bought a generic off-the-shelf 1960s Adam West Batman costume, had this guy put it on,
And then hid
but
the logo.
they had to hide the logo for copyright reasons.
But it fits it right in with the rest of the movie.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Gagano and his partner get a call for another mission. Malin wants to leave the city, but he just wants to make pizzas.
It's his passion.
He still hasn't quit the CIA, even after 7 years of talking about it. She says he can stay or go with her, but she's not waiting for him anymore. Gagano and Palmer go back into the Psycho Book for their mission. They wear paper masks of Robert Redford and Richard Pryor. What?
They're alter egos.
Quite a combination there.
They're VR alter egos.
Gagano succumbs to some kind of gas, but Palmer has to fight a Soviet agent who looks like Stalin and is captured.
He's just wearing a Stalin mask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stalin wants Palmer to help him sell the substance. Well, Palmer wakes up from the game, but Gagano doesn't. He's stuck inside. Palmer calls Malin and tells her the bad news. Meanwhile, inside the virtual reality, Gagano orders a pizza margarita, or a margarita pizza, whichever, and watches Batfro on TV in there too. Batfro again is in a cheap Batman suit, and he's also the president now.
Of the VR world, anyway.
Gagano can still talk to the computer interface, whose name is Jiminy Cricket, but he just wants to go home. They tell him that he can't wake up and he's only living on borrowed mental energy. He's already dead. Well, clearly, the commandant of the CIA mission, they call him the commandant. I don't think the CIA has those.
I don't think so, but it's cool for this.
Anyway, he's double-crossed Gagano, and Malin knows it. Palmer tries to move in on Malin romantically, but he also wants to rescue his partner. He wants to finance Malin's kickboxing. She wants to make a kickboxing academy, because she's tough. In the Psycho Book, Batfro and Mr. Sophistication get after Gagano about his credit card being declined. They shoot Gagano, but it doesn't have any effect because he's not physically there, so they lock him in a cage with some of Batfro's political prisoners. It gets a little hard to follow at this point. Like, what is going on?
A little bit, yeah.
Well, actually, it starts out with the first minute like that, but it all flows. Stalin gives Batfro orders about Gagano. They want to take over the Psycho Book from inside, and Gagano can give them the access to the source code. He knows the passwords. But they need the Ark of the Covenant, which is guarded by Shaolin masters. They send 3 Kung Fu masters to try to take him out, and they all lose. Stalin sends the 3 Kung Fu masters back with upgrades, and they win the Ark. Stalin and Batfro celebrate their victory. Stalin then shows Gagano a video of Malin and Palmer having sex. Stalin wants Gagano to get revenge on them. Mr. Sophistication, however, releases Gagano and tries to make a deal with him, showing him the original version of Psycho Book. It's one of his 1980s laptops. Gagano enters his security code, and one of the Kung Fu masters does the rest.
They're in.
Back at headquarters, the Commandant sees that the whole system is being hacked. The Commandant wants to blow up Ethiopia in retaliation, but the President won't allow it. And the President's some guy wearing a old George Bush mask. With full access, Stalin kills Mr. Sophistication and the Kung Fu masters with giant laser-blasting fly monsters. What?
Yes, you heard that right.
The flies then chase Gagano until he finds Palmer's avatar, and they use a mirror to fight the flies' laser blasts. Well, one of the flies wakes up, and it's just a guy in a rubber suit now. His name is Roy, and he wants to help Gagano. We flash back to Roy, who thought he was Jesus, crucified to a tiny little cross. It's like 2 feet tall. He met Palmer, who told him all about the substance. Stalin turned him into a giant fly and sent him to Flyland, or something like that. He says that he and Gagano are really in an experiment at MIT. He doesn't work for the CIA at all. This is all just a virtual projection in 1997. None of this is actual real.
Okay, I'm on board for that.
But then Batfro shows up and kills Roy. The old soldiers give Gagano some candy that contains the substance, and they say it'll send him home. All right, well, yeah, I've had that candy. It didn't send me anywhere. Back in the real world, Stalin orders that the Commandant kill Gagano's comatose body, So they take him out to the beach and burn his body as Palmer watches. Later, inside Psycho Book, Palmer finds a hard drive that contains what's left of Gagano, which he gives to Malin. Malin plugs him into a portable TV, and he talks to Malin through that. He wants to go away with Malin now, but he's just a guy on a TV show. He still wants to finish his mission and stop Palmer, who is dealing the substance. I'm not dead, I'm trapped inside a portable TV. The Commandant then throws the TV off the roof, but it's intercepted by Captain Laguchi, a drag queen performer and soldier with a parachute.
Paratrooper. A paratrooping drag queen
a little
soldier.
hard to follow. You're getting the idea.
Yes.
Laguchi sets Gagano in front of another TV showing actual Batman and Robin reruns. So Adam West does exist here.
Yes, he does.
Palmer tries to convince Malin to run away with him as Gagano watches. Malin doesn't think she can stay in love with a portable TV and wants the three of them to open a kickboxing school.
She's obsessed with that.
She turns the TV toward the window and leaves. Later, some men pack up all the stuff in the apartment and put it out for garbage, including the TV, which they don't bother turning on. An old woman dumpster dives and finds that TV. She takes him to Roy, who now leads a cult. Batfro and the police raid the place as they all eat some of the substance. Roy pours some of it into the TV. Gagano awaits on a bed at MIT, just like Roy said. The Commandant is actually the doctor in charge, who says Gagano has been experiencing paranoia symptoms. He gives the little man a check and thanks him for participating in the experiment.
The whole thing was a VR within a VR.
He then asks Roy the way to the highway on the way out. There's the title. Gagano gets in the car with his wife. Now they have the money to open up that kickboxing academy. They drive off happily ever after. Wow.
It's something.
It's something.
Could this be any weirder?
And
No.
if you read the reviews on IMDb, they are all 1s or 10s.
And
There's very little in between.
I think that's how anybody would be watching this. They would love it or hate it.
Yeah, if this could be any weirder, I have no idea how. It doesn't make a huge load of sense, and it's all very dreamlike. It's like Jodorowsky met David Lynch, and they decided to collaborate. This is just wow.
Mm-hmm.
The dubbing is terrible, but I think it's probably intentionally so, as it really adds to the tone of the film. Was this actually some kind of foreign movie?
It was internationally made, yeah.
It was, really? Okay.
Yeah.
It just sort of sounded like, let's just dub this thing, because make it weirder.
It fits really well.
Yeah. It's a mix of just about every exploitation genre. At first, it all looks like hot garbage, but it's also clearly what the creators wanted. It's not low budget, it just looks low budget.
They did this on purpose.
It's well-made, intentional garbage.
Right.
It looks as if they simply gave Batfro a generic 1960s Batman costume and then had to blur out the logo on all the scenes. It is hilariously done.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it look like they weren't paying any attention at all. It's really just one wild thing after another, and it never relents. You'll either love it or hate it. I don't see there being much middle ground around here. Yeah, I think Titane is a better movie. It makes more sense, and it gives more to think about. But this is my second favorite.
I think it was my second favorite, too. And I'm going to go with Cthulhu as my third.
I think Sting is my third.
Okay. Insane Like Me would be my fourth, I think.
Yeah. All right. The one I hated the most would have to be The First Omen, just because it was needless and stupid.
Disappointing.
My second hated is Cthulhu, just because it was so boring.
Yeah, I wasn't bored. I didn't. Yeah, I don't hate it.
All right. Well, that is 6 movies and a short film this week. That's 7 days this week. What do we do next week?
More movies.
More movies.
Yay.
Yeah, stop in over at horrorbulletin.com and sign up for the weekly email list where you'll get all these reviews in one big email Saturday morning. The podcast may be switching over to that site as well. We'll see.
Maybe.
Again, if you never hear from us again, that's not us, that's you. Check the podcast feed at Horror Guys or horrorbulletin.com. Until someday.
We will meet again.
Yes, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Really, we will.
We will.
See ya.